All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to another Aplos monthly educational webinar. We're so glad that you took time and you're taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I'm Dan Kimball, product specialist here at Aplos, and I'm really excited about what's happening today. And I knew a lot of you would be excited because we had a ton of signups, and we're just, again, so glad that you, as busy nonprofit professionals, fundraisers, church leaders, ministry-based leaders, we're all so glad that you are with us today. So we're going to kind of get fired up and get going here real quick, and I'm going to introduce my guest. Especially as fun that a lot of times our guest webinars, our guests are another place of the country, but I'm excited today because Jill Wagner, who is our guest, is actually here in the Aplos office with us. So it's kind of fun. So I will try to be on my best behavior as well. So before we get going, I just want to, again, as we usually do, just kind of double check that everybody's being able to see my screen and hear my voice okay. So if just a couple of you would just punch in the question box, just let me know that you can hear and see everything clearly. That would be great. Oops, another one. Great. Welcome, Zach. Good. Awesome. Shannon. Awesome. Good. Awesome. Super. Thanks, you guys. Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Just a couple of housekeeping items I want to let you know about. First of all, I want to let you know that all of our webinars are recorded. And we will make available the recording and the slides that you see. So that's typically a question that we're going to get right away. So just know that usually about a day or two after this webinar, you should get an email from me. And with a link to this webinar recording. And I'm really excited to let you know that along with that email, you're going to also be invited, if you choose to. We have a new newsletter that I'm putting out about every 2 weeks. It's called Dan's Mulletin instead of Bulletin. So I'm bringing the mullet back. And if you look at my picture on LinkedIn or whatever, you'll see the reason for that. But you are going to be certainly welcome to participate in that. And so we had a question already about getting, you don't have to be subscribed to Aplos to get any of the webinars or follow-up information. So that's going to be super easy. So that'll be good from there. So and then we'll do a couple other housekeeping things at the end. I'll tell you about our next webinar coming up in November, which I'm super excited to tell you about. Just again, who I am, I'm Dan Kimball. Spent 20 years in the fundraising field as a nonprofit fundraiser, and here at Aplos helping you all hopefully do your jobs a little bit better. So that's kind of my role here. And we will have Q&A at the end. Of course, you can ask questions as we go, but typically what we'll do is wait till the very end to do your question and answers. If you enjoy Twitter and you enjoy that space, we are active on Twitter. You can either do @FugitiveDMK as my Twitter, or @Aplos_software, and you can use the hashtag #AplosWebinar if you want to interact, let people know what you're learning out there. Of course, just a little bit about us. We are a technology company that focuses on accounting and donor management, helping you do your jobs easier. If you don't know, Aplos is a Greek word. It means simple in the word Greek. And so what we believe is that you shouldn't be spending hours and hours of your time trying to understand software, but be able to do your job easier. So if you want more information about anything on Aplos, just go to our website. Again, we offer this as a free service, not for just customers, but anybody. We also have an awesome Academy section where you can get articles and all sorts of information. So that's enough about that. So let's get into why we're here today. I'm super excited to introduce you to a person who I greatly respect and makes me laugh and smile, which is a big part of my day, and that's Jill Wagner. You can see Jill comes with a lot of experience in public relations. She's worked with big, small organizations, nonprofits, for-profit companies. She's an amazing storyteller. She's great at crisis management and especially great at helping people achieve their goals. So Jill owns and operates her own PR agency in Fresno. called Idea Emporium. We'll give you that website at the end. You can Google it as well. And as you can see here, she provides creative and comprehensive public relations, communications, and marketing services. And today, she's going to take all of that into one topic on, what is it called? How to be the best fundraiser in the world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jill.
Hooray. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me in my low-pitched voice. Also, I operated an education foundation for 10 years during a part of my career, and so I know what it's like to be in your shoes. I've worked on campaigns and in fundraising and with nonprofits extensively, so I understand that. Today, we're not going to talk about the details about fundraising itself, because there are so many great options for that. And you can get information through Aplos. There's great resources out there, conferences and webinars and what have you. But today we're going to talk about your personal leadership and who you are and how you can be the best fundraiser in the world. We're talking about your personal success and how to have confidence and influence and how to be successful and happy in your career. Because this is one career where you cannot dial it in. You cannot just go through the motions and be miserable every day, because you will not be effective. And when you're not effective, you're not happy. Not only are you not helping your organization, you're not having the level of happiness you can get. So today we're going to talk a little bit about success as it relates to your job, to your organization, to your career, and most importantly, to your life, because all these are integrated in your life. So we're going to talk about some of the basics. And some of the basics are fundraising skills. And I know probably a number of you are kind of the lone wolf in your organization raising money. You have a boss and you've been hired to raise money, or you are the boss and you're tasked with raising money. And it can be difficult when you don't have a team to bounce things off of. So what I say on this in mastering your basics is create your team. I have what's called a board of directors. While I've always worked at large organizations, I haven't always had large teams. And so I have folks that I go to regularly when I want to bounce things off of and get information and what have you. I learn online. I learn through TED Talks. I go to sessions, and I learn by teaching as well. So make sure that you have the basics mastered of fundraising. If you don't have information about it, start reading about it. Don't hope that it's going to come upon you one day. Aplos has a great library of information that you can access for free. And I don't understand all of software in and outs, but I can tell you about the company. And every time I visit here, it is so warm, and they take such good care of their people, and they care so much about their clients. And so, of course, learning is a big part of that for their folks here and for their clients too. And so it's a really fun place to be.
It is. Thanks.
It's a fun place to be. I've been in some really yucky offices, and this isn't one of them. So
yeah, and just real quick, that's a great reminder, because I know that a lot of our folks that either listen in or our customers are your executive directors of maybe a small nonprofit. Your passion is the mission that you do, and you think, well, I'm not really a fundraiser. I'm a program worker, executive director, but as you know, fundraising is part of that. So thanks, Jill, for saying that.
Yeah. The next thing is organizational expertise. And what that means is you don't have to know every organization in your town, but you do have to know yours. So be the expert on your organization. Learn to everything you can about it. So when folks ask you, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? You don't want to say, well, I'm just the fundraiser. The fundraiser, the person who's charged with helping develop the organization, has to be kind of like an expert on all things organization. And you have to care about your organization. If you're involved in an industry or a cause that you don't really have a heart for, I would really encourage you, for your personal happiness, to think about a shift or find the hook that makes you care about it. Be the expert in your organization. And then the third thing is your learning plan. Always invest in yourself, because I've worked some really, really large companies. I think, I was head of PR for an organization that had 10,000 employees. And I'll tell you, it's not very often your boss comes in and says, you are so great, and I'm going to invest in your learning and this and that. That is more rare than common, and especially scaled organizations. The smaller you are, the harder it is to see that. So I want you to care enough about yourself and your career that you develop your own learning plan, and you build your equity. And if you want to be a member of an organization that will help you build your skills, but your company won't pay for it. A lot of these organizations have a thing where you can pay quarterly and then get your membership covered, or whatever you can do. But I'd say invest in yourself. Don't say, I'm not going to be a member of something because my company won't pay for it. Sometimes you have to do it, but there's a whole lot you can do to build your equity, to develop your learning plan that isn't going to cost you a whole lot. So what I ask you is this: what do you want to be known for? A lot of people don't even think about that in regards to their career. And this is what I've come up with. And I've been in the career field a long time. I'm not quite a dinosaur, but I'm edging near there. I don't use ageist talk, but I will say with my experience, I've learned in this field, what's really good to be known for is your influence. And when I say that, I don't mean power. I mean influence so that you can be effective. And you're effective for your organization, you're effective for your cause and your goals. So you want to be an influencer. And also you want to know that this time you're spending matters. It's for something that you care about, something that is changing the part of the world that you care about. And so I always ask folks, what do you want to be known for? And they talk about, I'm unhappy and this and that. I'm like, okay, well, let's back up a little. What do you want to be known for? And a lot of it goes to the success that we just talked about. But I'll tell you, the one thing that you have to do in any part of your life to gain success is to work on your intention. And that is just basically having a plan. So many of us, we get a job, we read the job description, we get to know the organization, and we get in there, and then we're just doing work without ever thinking about, what am I really trying to get done here? You might have goals set for you. You might be setting goals. That's good. But I always say, you can do this every day. Set your intent. What do you want to do? What do you want to be known for? What are you trying to get done? If you can answer those questions to yourself, okay, I'm trying to get that. And I'll tell you, I've been in situations where I was doing crisis communication, and you're in constant turmoil. But every day I was driving to work, it was like, what am I trying to get done today? And I would ask myself every day, how can I advance the mission today? Now, I might be knocked off the mission. I might be working on some crisis that, I'm doing my job, but I'm not really doing what I kind of wanted to get done. But I have this saying, your job is what they have you do. But I was always thinking, how can I set my intent? How can I advance the mission? How can I be a better fundraiser? How can I communicate what the needs are in a way that would make people care about them the way that I do? And how do I tap into those people who care? But I say it's really important to set your intent on that.
Is part of that, Jill, also just getting caught up and not just being busy to be busy? Is that kind of that same idea?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Work is funny, isn't it? You can be busy, and I'll tell you, I've left jobs where I was crazy busy, but I wasn't challenged. There's plenty of stuff to do, but I like the work that, is of your heart and makes your, challenges me and all that kind of stuff. And it's one thing to have a lot to do. It's the other thing to have a lot to do that matters and you're creating something. And especially if you're in a small organization, you might think, we don't have resources, but what you do have is freedom. You can create a career that really suits you and works for your organization. So I really say spend some time on setting your intent, and there's a way to do that. And you do that by building your foundation. This is you. This is a pseudo award, as you're going to get the best fundraiser in the world. But your foundation is who you are and why you're here. And I'll talk a little bit about being authentic here, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but I kind of believe in job karma. And I think you are where you're supposed to be, meaning you're getting a lesson. You're either around great people and you're learning stuff, or you're learning the hard way. You're learning what to do, how you'll never treat people, how you will treat people, all this. But all this is informative. And you might think it's a sentence, or you're not having fun, or that kind of thing. But you're learning, and it's forming who you are. I think you always need to bring your authentic self to work. People have their work persona, and then sometimes you'll see them out in the community, and it's like, who's that? That's a fun person. Why don't they show up at work? Because people put on these cloaks around work. But I think the way that we are successful in our jobs, and the way that we create deep, meaningful relationships with our coworkers and our clients and our prospects, and it's not a game. We're not dialing it in. These are
Mhm.
relationships that are forever. The way we do that is by bringing our authentic selves to let them get to know us. You don't have to share secrets and vulnerabilities and all that, but it's just caring. So always bring your authentic self to work. Part of your foundation is who you are. And then you have to know why you're here. Why are you in this organization anyway? If you've been there 20 years, that's a harder thing to end. Well, I've always been, gosh, I don't even remember why I was here. I care about the cause. How are you serving the cause? What is your foundation? So I always say continually cultivate your foundation.
Yeah.
This is something you always, that means investing in yourself and being you. And I'll tell you, when you're young in your career, you're less you because you gain in confidence and knowledge and relationships and all that kind of stuff. And then you become, you're more confident about letting yourself out, and that's cool. But cultivate your foundation. Reassess what makes you happy, because when you're happy, life is better at home, at work. And this is stuff you've all heard before, but it's key to being the best fundraiser in the world.
Well, and I also think with that authenticity that, if people, especially donors and the community, are coming to your place of work, they'll tell a lot about your leadership and your organization based off of, the vibe they get in your office, right? I mean,
right.
So.
Right. I want to tell you about some things that you're going to encounter. And you'll see on the base there, it says who you are and why you're here, because that is your foundation. You're going to encounter people who don't have a foundation, who are just dialing it in, who don't care, who are messing around, who are collecting a paycheck. You're going to encounter them. You're going to run into people with a quest for power. They might be coworkers, they might be donors and prospects, they might be your board members, but you are going to run into these people. You're going to encounter those with agendas who are not related to the mission. They're climbing in their careers. There's a number of reasons here, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you're going to run into those. And you're also going to run into the worst possible thing, which is people without passion. They will work around you. They will, sometimes they'll drain your resources. I call those people joy. There's some people out there I call joy stealers, who you're happy at work and you're doing something, then somebody comes and drops a little thought on you or unkind words or creates a yucky situation, and you're like, God, they stole my joy from the day. And I don't allow my joy to be stolen ever, because I don't give that much power to others over me and how I operate. But what I want you to know is you're going to encounter these, but it doesn't matter, because you have your foundation. And look, you're standing there on rock. And when you know who you are and why you're here and what you're trying to get done, you're going to be formidable. And I don't mean in a bad way. I mean in an honorable way, and a person that people want to be around. And so you're going to run into these. Hopefully you're a model for these folks. Hopefully they'll say, what is it that this person's doing that I'm not? But this is going to be around you, because this is common in the workplace, and you can see a zillion presentations and go to a zillion seminars on this, and you'll learn how to deal with difficult people and blah, blah, blah. And you probably deal with internet trolls and unkind stuff. And, the lack of understanding that happens through written communication, like through text and stuff, because you miss so much of the dynamic, the back and forth. But I just wanted you to know you're going to encounter them, but you can, you'll be fine because you have your foundation. I'm going to talk about 7 leadership traits. This is not from some book. This is just stuff I've developed over a career of joy and happiness. Just kidding. It's been difficult sometimes, I'll tell you. But that's okay, because I learned early on. It's like, you know what? These trolls who are attacking me, I'm just learning from. And I made a really decision early in my career. I'm not going to take that home. Not meaning I abandoned my career and stopped thinking about it, because I'm one of those folks. I think about work when I'm at home. I'm always like, I wonder if I could approach, or I'm in the shower. That's my big thinking space. You get running water, put me by a waterfall, a lake, or whatever, and I'm just an idea of, here you go. But I just want you to know that these are accumulated through my experience, and I have worked in your world. I've worked for nonprofits. I've run a foundation. I've been in communications. And so I think these will help you develop your career. But one thing I want to say going into leadership traits, because you might say, well, I'm just the assistant coordinator for something or what have you. I will tell you that titles don't matter. Titles have nothing to do with influence. I've never cared what my job title is. A lot of people do, because they think, natural progression, title is money, this and that. And it's more important is influence. Are you the go-to person? Are you Are you a problem solver? Are you this, you're that? And we're going to go through those. But I'm just telling you right now, you're like, it's never wrong to think about your personal leadership. You might not be a leader in your organization, but you will be a leader in influence. And if you care to be a leader in your organization, or if you are, these are traits that I think are super important. So the first one is seeing the big picture. And that means beyond your position. That is knowing about your organization, how it fits in the community, why it's important. Sometimes when you get into development, you have goals or you have metrics and you have to follow. You've been there, Dan. You have to have so many this and so many that. And it's hard because you're drilling down so much to step back and see the big picture. I'm working in a hospital. Oh my gosh, we're saving people every day. Yeah. There's some great stories out there. But, if you're in there and drilling for money and doing this and that, it's hard. So continually step back and look at the big picture of the organization, because that'll be informative to you. And you can also maybe come up with some tactics that'll serve you better when you step back going, wait, we're not having any success over here. What the heck is happening? So as a leader, as you grow your fundraising expertise, make sure you can see the big picture and then share that with people around you. Because sometimes, we just get stuck because we get stuck in the duties of our jobs.
Yeah. I think even just being reminded of what is your mission? Does everybody in your organization know what your mission is? Even as simple as just printing up your mission and putting it on the wall somewhere, because, I think that's a great reminder.
Yeah. I had a boss one time who he came in, he was new and he was shiny and he was bright and everybody, he also had no personality, but he was in charge and he kept trying to get people to focus on mission. And I noticed this early on in meetings. I pick up the clues pretty quick. And I was trying to help my coworkers going, I didn't have the title, but it's like I'm trying to help my coworkers know that, hey, there's this this boss wants to know about we're just kind of
sorry about that.
Playing around with the thing.
There we go.
Were you having fun? I hope you didn't get vertigo there, people. Get your hands off there, Dan.
All right.
He has keyboard envy. He can't keep his hands off the keyboard. But people weren't picking up on the mission. So I had it printed on, those little business cards you can run through your laser printer. I had the mission and the 4 goals behind it, and I had it. And I said, Carrie, you guys better know this. And he got thrilled. And then everything we did in the organization, he would say, how does this support the mission or one of the goals? And the people were like, but I do this, I don't see it. So you had to figure out how you supported it. And it was a great exercise. The many people, it's like, well, I don't know how we do this thing with educating kids and all that. Well, you provide the resources so teachers have it, da-da-da-da-da. There's some stretches, but it all was mission oriented. So make sure you can see the big picture and help others see that too. The second thing is be a solution giver and a problem solver. If you're the boss, you're probably used to this role, right? Because people come to you for that. If you're not the boss, sometimes when we're younger in our career or we're around people who aren't as nice as they can be, it's, we take problems forward. We have challenges. We have a donor question. We have a sticky thing and a gift agreement. We have things that happen. And I'd say the way that you develop your leadership trait is not just identifying the problem, but identifying solutions. And when I've worked with CEOs and the people who are heading organizations, I'd say I was always one usually raising the flag that there's an issue because I'm paying attention to the landscape. But also I would go in with 3 solutions. If I couldn't come up with 3, I wouldn't go because it's like, I like them to have a choice. It's like, we can do this, we could do this. And then my third one was always, or we could do nothing. Because if we're letting something lay there purposely, that's a decision. And your organization can pay for that. We're not going to do anything and we're just going to see how it goes. And you see some big organizations in the news doing this, failing. When United, when they were dragging a guy down the aisle to get him off the flight, it's like, that's hard to recover from, visuals like that. But whoever, I think an attorneys probably got in advising the CEO. And so he lacked compassion at first. His first comment should have been, that looks horrible. We're going to look into it and get back to you, stay tuned. Instead of saying, well, I'm sure we did the right thing. It's like, whoever was doing the advice there wasn't being a solution giver and a problem solver. But what I'm saying is, don't just drop issues on your boss, bring solutions, because then that's a sign of leadership. And you know the answers. You just probably keep them to yourself. And it's okay to throw them out there. And if they don't pick your favorite, that's okay, because what you're just trying to do is get the word out and influence, and that's leadership. And you're doing way more than other people in your organization too. I think another leadership trait is knowing what matters most. Again, sometimes we get lost in the organization. We get distracted, by internal, external issues. And sometimes our organizations, we say what really matters is this, and then all of our work is for something else. We're doing something else. We're trying to do a fancy annual report to impress the board or the investors or donors or what have you. And we're not really doing the core work. And there has to be a balance. So you have to know what matters most as a fundraiser and as a leader, and keep that front of mind, because it will save you a lot of sleepless nights. It will save you hundreds of hours that could be focused elsewhere. And I know it's difficult sometimes you might not necessarily change the paradigm of your organization, but you can change the way you operate towards, being happier and more successful and to being a stronger leader. The other thing I think you need to be is calm and collected and not panic. If any of you do special events, and I would say it's probably a whole lot of you, you know that there's always people around who freak out, and they cause other people to freak out. And you don't want to be that person. You want to be the person who takes the information, who assesses, who is focused. There's a time for panicking, and it can come later. It doesn't have to be now, but you don't want to be the one who's panicking, because look at all the leaders that you admire. Look at whether they're in your personal life, your parents, your grandparents, bosses, mentors. I bet they aren't people who panic.
Yeah.
Being calm and collected, because what you're doing is you're thinking things through. And in doing that, you're calming the situation. You're not reacting and panicking. But you've seen people, they fly off. Da-da-da-da-da, yeah. And then you're watching this show of misery, and you're going, I don't like that. But I'll tell you, the people who are calm and collected, those are the people you go to when you have problems. You want to be that go-to person. You want people to come in and say, because you're a solution giver, this is going on, blah, 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 because they know you're not going to yell and snap and go. You can be disappointed and go, oh, man, okay, let's think this through. But if you just take those few minutes and don't panic, don't let panic be your first go-to position. Be calm and collected. It really will influence your leadership skills.
I think leading is easy when things are going great.
Oh, yeah.
The money comes in, or, things are positive, but it's usually the people that lead the best are when things are down. This is a bit of a strange to make this point, but I had an opportunity to do a ride along with a fire department. And you want to talk about the coolest, calmest people in the world. I mean, you think that here's these fire guys, they run on the truck, they run emergencies, but before every situation they assess it. They're very calm. They don't freak out. And
they don't jump off the truck and scream.
And they see some wild stuff. I mean, cars stuck into trees and all sorts of things. And so I think that's an excellent point, because I've seen both sides. I've seen some amazing leaders. I think recently all these different hurricanes and fires and floods that are going on. Nonprofits really stand up in these situations. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a good friend who is with American Red Cross, and she's been traveling around the country because it's been disaster year, and just as a voice of reason and help and kindness. And I'll tell you, there's a lot to be said for being calm and collected. Can you imagine our military leaders? Oh my gosh, we're under attack! You don't want that. So keep that in mind when you're working on your leadership traits. The next one is honesty and integrity. You get lots of doses of this. If you, from Panish to everybody else, all the people who are talking, that in a fundraiser, you have to be honest, and you have to have high integrity, and you have to have that for your career, but also for your life. You want to be known as, people want to know who they're dealing with, and they want to make sure they're dealing with an honest person who has high integrity. You want to deal with that as a leader. I throw it in there because to me, it's like, oh yeah, duh. But if you look at the people you admire, I guarantee you this is among one of their highest traits. And especially in the fundraising world, that people are giving you, they're trusting you with their resources and their assets to achieve something. and you want to make sure that that's done and that everything's represented well. And guess what? If they like dealing with you, they're going to deal with you again, and that's what you want. You want to represent all voices. Now you'll say, well, my job is just I'm executive director, or I'm pastor, or I'm development coordinator, or what have you. But you will be much more effective if you think beyond your position, saying, how is this going to affect so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so? How's this going to affect other people? Think of donors, think of prospects, think of employees. Look beyond your position and know that you can represent all voices. Because then you're going to be more thorough, you're going to be more thoughtful, you're going to have a better plan for what you're doing, and people know that you're considerate because you're thinking beyond your job, and you're thinking beyond the narrowness of the current project. So if you can represent other voices, and I just say voices because I like that. I guess I could say peoples, or dudes, or womans, or I don't know what I could say in there, but it's like I like voices. It works for me. So then I'd say cultivate a wide net of resources and connections. And we're going to talk about relationship building coming up. But the more you know, the better connections you'll make. The better connections you have, the better career you will have. Because guess what? People are always around. People change careers and companies and that kind of thing, but you'll have relationships forever. I was just at a community event yesterday representing one of my clients, and I was sitting at this table, a booth at a big community event, and people were wandering by, and it's like, hey, Jill, hey, da, da, da. And there was this young guy who had just gotten out of college who was in the vicinity, and he just looks at me, he goes, do you know everybody? And I'm like, no, I don't know everybody. I want to, but I know, well, okay, most people. I want to know most people. But it's from a career's worth of relationships and these connections. And I still know people from my very first job. Because when you have relationships, they're forever. You'll leave workplaces, you'll leave positions, but you won't always leave your relationships. So make sure you have a wide net of resources, connections, things you can tap into, because you'll need those along the way, and they will be so valuable to you. We're going to talk about 7 interpersonal skills. And we talked a little bit about setting intent and having your intention, but that's a strategy. I say quit wandering around, trying to get your job done. What do I want to get done this week, this month, this year? What is my strategy? Because when you do that, you're training your brain. You're telling your brain what to do. It's like, look, I'm trying to get this done. And you put it out, you say it, you write it, because then you will most likely make decisions that support your goals. If you don't have goals, it's kind of like that Alice in Wonderland. It doesn't, if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to end up anywhere. It's the whole setting, and you don't have to have spreadsheets and wall charts and all this stuff. It's you knowing what, I really want to get to know so-and-so, or I really want to make connections here. It's setting your intent and your strategy. It's you saying what you want to get. So that's it.
And we've talked a lot about in past webinars. We've done whole webinars about goal setting a fundraising plan, organizational plans, all of that.
And I think when I refer to it in interpersonal skills, what I also mean is, I'm trying to be better at this. How can I learn that? This year I really want to get XYZ done. And then you can review it. I have my best friend does an annual report on herself. Really, at the end of the year, she looks back with her call. She goes, I was successful here. I wasn't there. Okay, so next year I'm going to regroup. And she comes up with a theme for every year. And I join her on her themes because she's already created them. So why would I come up with my own? No, but she does an annual report based on what she set her intent to do, and it's in her spiritual life, physically, financially, work, and everything. And it's not, like I said, she doesn't have goals. She just keeps it in mind, because again, you're training your brain to support you. And so you'll make decisions to support that. We talked about being authentic. Be you. Always be yourself. Not a character playing a role, which is a job. This isn't a big play. This is your chance to always be you. And people want to know who they're dealing with, because you will change jobs. But these relationships will continue, and you want to make sure they're still dealing with the same person, and that would be you. Relationship building. This is the core of life. This is the core of happiness. And you're going to meet some people you don't want to continue relationships with, and that's okay. But when I was in the work world where I worked for an employer, let's just put it that way, I'd go in and say, wow, I'm going to make some really great friends here. That was my intent when I went. I'm going to make super friends. And when Dan and I worked in the same organization, before I started at that organization, that was one of the things as I was walking across during my interview, I thought, I'm going to get this job and I'm going to make the best friends. And, I did. And they've been through with me through thick and thin, are some of my dearest friends. And so this relationship building not only helped us, we were a heck of a team working together, supporting one another. And it was amazing teamwork. But, you also have that benefit for personal. So in your interpersonal life, relationship building is key. Minimize negative talk. I can tell you it's easy to complain. I work with one demographic right now for one of my clients, and it's basically professional complainers. So we're kind of working on that. Just because they've gotten in the habit of that. Yeah. And I think we have to be aware of the negative talk that comes out of our mouth, because what it does is it clouds the space around us. It might convince people around us that we're negative. And there is no future in that. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't build relationships. It's okay to vent and to complain, but don't let it, visit there. Don't move in there and live there. Because what you say in life is what you get. Remember, I told you your brain will obey you and help you support decisions. So if you say everything's going wrong all the time, everything's going to go wrong all the time. If you say no one gives to us, no one will give to you. You're creating your own destiny there. So be really careful with your negative talk. The other thing is you're representing your organization. And if you are out there saying, man, Aplos, he's here, Mr. Sunshine, and representing, but if he's out with his friends or at a barbecue or what is it you like to do? Sport fishing? Just kidding. Just kidding. Cornhole. When he's out playing cornhole, if he's saying, oh, they really stink and all that, people are assessing you. And, that goes to your integrity. So if you have something to say it within your organization or try to fix it. And I'm not saying don't complain all the time, because sometimes we can work through issues. But be careful, because people are listening. And negative talk doesn't serve you. And I don't say be Mary Sunshine, because I am not that way. I'm not a cheerleader either. I try to stay as positive as possible in the circumstances I'm in. But just watch your negative talk, because to not let it become a habit. And sometimes when we get downtrodden at work, it's easy to just be negative, and you don't want to be that way.
Well, and I've always believed that donors give to strength, and donors want to give to causes and organizations that are positive.
Right.
And if staff and representatives are out there, being positive, I think they're going to be drawn to that.
I've seen gifts go away because the development person made they got a little too cozy with the donor, and then they're like, well, our executive director is really blah, 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 and this and that. And you know what? It impugned integrity. And so just watch your negative talk. That's all I'm saying. It's okay to complain sometimes and everything. Just don't make it a habit. Have courage. And that means saying what needs to be said in a safe place. Like if you have something to fix in the organization, internally, have your dialogue be there internally. You don't need to share that out there. It also means courage to be honest. And when I say that, people talk about brutal honesty, and I don't believe in that. I think that's mean, and it's an excuse to be mean. I believe in compassionate honesty. And there are always nice ways to say hard things. So you have to have the courage to do that. And the courage to speak up in meetings. If you see a big red flag around something, you've got to go, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but you've got to have the courage to bring it up. You can't be the mouse in the corner. If you have courage to bring it up, now, when they say don't kill the messenger, I got news for you. The messenger always gets killed. But that's okay, because you brought the information up. And courage is something, if you cultivate that in your career, and I said not brutally honest, compassionately honest, it will serve you in your organization. Don't be egocentric. Be open to ideas wherever they come from. There might be good ideas. Somebody might say, hey, I saw so-and-so, and I think an appeal to them for their organization would be this. Just because you didn't come up with it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. So it's okay to let others, and that's a good sign that others are thinking about the organization. It doesn't mean you're not doing your job. Your brain is full of stuff, all kinds of things. But be open to ideas wherever they come from, and give people credit for their ideas. It's like, I wouldn't have thought about that, but Dan we had a conversation, and he kind of triggered that, and he made a connection for me, and look at us, because it's for the good of the organization. So if you can be open to ideas wherever they come from, your idea for the family vacation is someplace, and somebody else in the family comes up with another idea, and you're like, that is better, but I kind of wanted to do this. But you're going to go for the new experience. you're open to ideas wherever they come from, and I think it'll serve you.
Yeah,
You lift each other up.
yeah, my biggest pet peeve is, well, we've always done it this way, or when somebody, how come we do this? Well, we've always done it this way.
When you encounter the always done it this way, one thing I like to say is, okay, if you're diagnosed with something, do you want the medical treatment from today, or do you want it from 17 years ago or 25 years ago?
Yeah.
You pick, because I can tell you, with the advances, which are incredible, almost on a daily basis, you want the current stuff. So the always done it this way, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Curiosity. Don't stop learning. Don't stop wondering. Don't stop what ifing. Be curious about your job, your world, your life, because when you're curious, you will come up with great ideas that will serve you, because your brain keeps connecting all this information you have, and you will be a much more creative person. So I think curiosity is a really important thing to cultivate. When we were talking about influence, people with power have influence, right? But also, people with influence really have the power. These are the people you go to. They might not have titles, but when you want to know what is really going on in your community, in your organization, whatever, they might have a title, but you go there because they know, because they have influence, because they have good relationships, because they're connected, because they pay attention and they're honest and they have integrity. These are people with influence. There's positional power. I have a title, so I can sign things and I can make your life really happy or not. But then there's the influence. People want to be around me. They share information with me because they trust me. And I use it wisely. And I'm an influencer in my community and in my life and my family. So I say people with influence have the power.
Yeah, we do this here, even on this webinar series, by having people like yourself, and we've had people who are known as influencers in the nonprofit world for that reason. They're respected, and their name recognition alone, draws a lot of attention. So
my name is generic, so I don't have a lot of recognition, but I'm working on it.
Yes.
Okay, so what is influence? I say it's your solid foundation, plus your understanding of people and politics. You can't say, I can't get involved in that. You're in it. You're on the stage. I got news for you. Plus your personal style and nimbleness, meaning your ability to adapt and change and adjust. That equals influence. This isn't some business school. I've kind of figured this out through a career. So that's what I've come up with.
That's great stuff.
Work-life integration, I'm just going to touch on really quick, because I want you to know home and work boundaries are blurred, but never confuse where you work and where you live. Your brain will be in both places, but always know, what your service is to your work and to home. But the boundaries have been blurred. There are demands for instant gratification and connectivity. People want you when they want you. I don't care if you're on vacation. You're at the dentist having your wisdom teeth out. I need to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And it's like, that's going on. And because of that, there's no boundaries and there's no breaks. So we don't ever kind of get a break from our work life anymore, because it's like there's this constant intrusion, and that's where there's work-life integration. So I think what's really important is authenticity, that we're the same person to all, and that we can, we can set boundaries for it. It doesn't, like I said, when you get home, when you're at work, sometimes you're thinking about home. When you're home, you're thinking about work. There is no perfect line to draw. Just when you have your foundation for success and you know who you are and what you're trying to get done, it's easier. So always strive for authenticity. And I will tell you, things that matter everywhere. Whether you're at your desk, whether you're at home, if you're working for a cause you truly believe in, it matters when you're sitting at your desk. It matters when you're sitting in your backyard. It matters when you're at the gas station, because it doesn't go away. And so that is always with you. And then we go back to the success definition. How do you want your life to be? And if you're giving a lot to work, you're getting a lot. You're probably getting a lot of satisfaction, which makes you a better person in your life and more well-rounded. And they talk about work-life balance. I've been in my work life this whole with children and whatever, and I've never figured out what the exact balance is, but I figured out how to integrate it. And it works well. And that's why it's really important you work for something you care about, because otherwise it's just like a thorn in your big lion's paw. I'm going to talk a little bit about competition, because there's other people in your town who are trying to raise money from the same people you're targeting. And I want you to rethink competition, because competing compels you to compare, and comparison is the enemy of joy and confidence. Once you start comparing, They have a boat. They have a vacation. They have this. This organization has that. They did that for their board, blah, 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 blah. It chips away at joy and confidence. So you can decide not to be in competition. When you decide not to compete, others can step away. We're all in. I say there's plenty of people out there who want to do good for all of us.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who want to work with us. There's plenty of places that want us to work with them. So competition can grind you down or polish you up. Right? A lot of people let it grind them down because they get addicted to the game.
Yeah.
And it's not about the game. You know, there's always going to be people going after your prospects and your donors, and you get mad at them and you think you have to one up your game and all that. If your mission is entrenched in your donor's heart, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to be consistent and show them how you're serving and be honest and have integrity.
And the truth of the matter is donors give to multiple causes. So if you're doing,
you bet they did.
What you do.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
In smaller towns, you see it. They're everywhere. And it's good because we need them in our communities. And we're thankful that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And I always say develop the best version of yourself in service to the mission. I think it's really important. And then I'll tell you that doubt is the enemy of confidence. I know sometimes you feel like I don't know enough. I don't get enough training. And that's your ego talking to you that makes you fear and have doubt. But I say if you're doing everything you can to learn and to work on yourself and to always, set your intent and be true to your organization and your mission, do not doubt. And I'll say if you don't have a seat at the table where you're being listened to and honored, there's a couple things you can do. Behave like you do. Pretend like you do go in there because it changes how you operate. Maybe you don't have a seat at the table at the big meetings, but there's nothing wrong with you sending emails or notes saying, hey, I had a thought about this. I think we could maybe do this. Or I heard this the other day. Maybe we can act on that. That takes some courage to do if you haven't done it before. Maybe you do it in a meeting. But even if you don't execute those things, behave like you do, because if you go through those steps, you're training yourself in leadership. And then also see the big picture. If you don't have a seat at the table and you're not one of those big time titled persons or what have you, the big picture is you're learning. And if you're behaving like you do, you're coming up with solutions. You're not downing yourself. You're working on your authentic self. You're cultivating brilliant relationships that will serve your organization and then yourself forever. So get the big picture and don't get too down about it. If your quest is for a title, you're going to look at this things a little bit different. You can get your title and still be unhappy. But you can act out like you do. If I was the vice president of this, or I was the director, what would I be doing today? I'd probably be doing this. Now, you don't probably have the same set of information that they do, but that doesn't matter because you're making the best decisions based with the best information you have right now. So don't doubt yourself. I just say always see the big picture. One book I recommend if you haven't read it, because it's a great business book, although some people say they use it for other reasons. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Be impeccable with your word, which means speaking with integrity. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. That is the hardest one we will battle with our whole lives and careers. Don't make assumptions, meaning find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want, and always do your best. Everything changes from moment to moment, and you'll always do your best. This is a great book, but if you just had these 4 agreements that you went with, or 4 tips, or whatever you want to call it, but I think these things, if you look at the 4 and apply them to your work situation, if you're impeccable with your word, if you're careful to know they're not beating you up, they just don't like the idea, it doesn't matter. You don't have to take it personally. That you don't make assumptions. Don't we all just go to the worst? It's like, well, this is going on. Don't make assumptions, ask questions so that you have the best information, and then always do your best no matter what, because that's who you are and that's your authentic self. So those are my kind of tips. I will tell you, there's no big fundraiser and best fundraiser in the world award. But if you want to apply, let Dan know, and I'll get you something. I want you to feel great about who you are and what you do, and continually grow yourself, because you are your organization's most valuable resource. I appreciate all the work you do for your organizations, because without you, our world would be vastly different and certainly not as fun or rich, or, we wouldn't be helping each other as much. So I really appreciate the work you do. And if you have any questions, send them in, because Dan's got this magic button and he pushes it, and then I can see your questions.
Yeah. So this is your time to ask questions now, folks. for you. Thank you. We got a couple nice comments here. Thank you, Jim, about addressing some of your challenges. When Jill and I first started talking about doing this webinar, the idea of how to be the best fundraiser in the world came up. And most people, when they hear that topic, think, oh, I'm going to learn, what, the 3 best fundraisers that are out there. And I was really intrigued by where Jill is taking this, which is it's the skill set and the qualities that you can have to do your job better. Because if you Google best fundraising ideas, you're going to get 1,000 different ideas. And but if you can't lead a team through that, it's going to be much more challenging. So,
well, the other thing is the skills you learn here and in any job will serve you forever, wherever you're at. And so, all these things that you cultivate, it's not just for now, and it's not for just this job. You're going to develop these and use them forever. And I will tell you, even in times of crisis, if your organization goes through one, you will learn a lot that will stay with you forever. It's a heck of a lesson to have, but the stuff you learn stays with you forever. And so, and these can, if you're not in fundraising, these tactics apply to almost every career field. I didn't want to, sneak that in on you, but that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, so if you have any questions right now, go ahead and feel free to type those in. You see we have our contact information here. Jill is available to answer questions as well if you want more information about her company, what she does. Of course, my information is here as well. Of course, you can reach out my email, our Twitter account. All of our webinars are recorded.
Why are you a fugitive?
Fugitive.
Why are you a fugitive?
That's a really good question.
I'm sitting in a room with him, and I want to know why.
Yeah. So The Fugitive is actually a play on the movie The Fugitive. If you know that movie, you know that Richard Kimball was the main character. And so, sorry about that. I got a little mouse trickiness here.
Okay.
And so
I thought there was something
my last name is
background.
Kimball. And so people used to always joke to me about, oh, are you related to Richard Kimball? Even though it was BLE. And so when Twitter came out, that's how I developed my name. So there you have something good. So for new here's a question from Daryl. For new organizations starting up, how do you fundraise without the community being aware of who you really are? This is a great question.
You can't. The very first thing you have to do is teach people about your organization. And then the second thing you do is teach them to give to you. And it's creating the compelling, the typical fundraising, the case statement, the purpose, clearly define how you use the funds and that kind of thing. I know, especially, we've had a lot of tragedies lately, so a lot of small foundations pop up, which is okay, but I really like the idea of combining efforts, like what Bill Gates and Berkshire Hathaway.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett did. They combined. It's like, let's be dizzy. They combined their fortunes. So there's lots of little organizations that have started up, but they have a hard time because the marketplace is full of people who are doing similar things, because they're trying to do tribute. But I think the main thing you have to do is teach people about your organization. You have to decide who you're targeting, who's your likely target audience, who would care about you. Find those people, have your message, reach out to them and start teaching them about you. You can't just say, would you like to fund me? Because you might get an annual gift or a one-time gift, and then they're going to turn their back on you. You want people who'll be with you for thick and thin. So develop your case statement, your story. It's kind of basics 1A. And then
and I would say invite. Just invite people to you. I went to a fundraising banquet the other night here locally where Apples is. And just 3 years ago, this was there was like 100 people, and now they're up to about 600 people. Wow. And a lot of the work was just inviting people to coffees. You don't need to spend a lot of money in marketing, on the early end. So I think, if you have a location, inviting people to you, doing just getting out there in the community, I think would be a great way.
You want to make it easy for them to connect with you. And if you can have events and activities and introductions, or if it's a physical space, or if it's not, just have them in to hear about your cause and have something compelling. When we had no money, I'm not above begging. And I would work with local video production companies, and it's like, look, I need a video. I need the quality you do, but we don't really have any resources. who can I work with? And I have some, but I don't have it all. And most of the time they do it pro bono and that kind of thing. And we ended up with really good work because as they learned the cause, they got behind the cause.
Yeah.
And so there are, tips and techniques you can do to do that. But, starting off, decide what you want to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
What is your ultimate goal? What are you trying to get done here? And, and then you decide what the goal is and then work backwards, and figure out what all the steps are that you need to do. And the basics are relationship building and educating, communicating will be your very basic steps before you go in and ask for gifts.
And then the last thought on that, Daryl, is I would say there's a term called, look for the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
In other words, look for the easy successes, meaning that there's a lot of great resources out there that are free. Even things, with Facebook, things like that. Here in our office, we watch a lot of YouTube videos.
They do constantly.
Yeah, it's part of it's because, it's a lot of millennials here. But the funny thing is, if you look at YouTube, some of the YouTubes that have the most amount of hits, or views, are ones that they're not fancy produced.
They're solid.
There's a guy going, here, I'm going to change my oil. And, it's some guy in a garage with overalls. And you're like, what? So it's practical. So I would just say.
It doesn't have to be fancy. Just do it. Don't get analysis paralysis.
Yeah. So another question here. My challenge with fundraising is that donors get tired of me always asking for donations. Right now, I do a year-end appeal to our national database, and then we have an annual fundraising event. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they do get weary. But the thing is, that when you go get a gift from someone and it continues, they're like family, and so you can always go to your family for stuff. But build in some touches and some approaches that have nothing to do with asking for money.
Yeah.
Give them an experience. Can you guys get them tickets to something? I don't know what your organization is, but can you create some experiences for them that have nothing to do with them opening their wallet?
Yeah.
Just send a thank you note, or I'm thinking of you. Hope you're having a great year. Or I saw this article, you send them an email. I saw this article. I was thinking of you, but you want them to know they're top of mind without you always asking for money. Because I know that. And then you feel weird, like, they see me coming and they're going to slam the door. You don't want that. You want to, but see, the other thing is just getting together for coffee and talking and just saying, I just wanted to, get to know you a little better and that kind of thing. Because you're being authentic and you're creating experiences and touches that matter for your campaign without asking for money.
Yeah. Another thought is just simple, like take a certain season, say like Valentine's Day. And if you are an organization that, say you have youth, you serve youth of your community, have the kids draw Valentine's Day cards and send those to your donors.
Or
and
sign a soccer ball or whatever it is.
Just say, hey, we're thinking of you, kind of thing. And then also, if you're using a database, what you can do is you can pull a report, or you can segment a group of donors. So let's say, for example, you take your most frequent donors. Let's say you have 50 people who give a lot, which means you've solicited them a lot. Take those 50 donors and send them a story. Just simply say, hey, I wanted to let you know about about this particular situation that's happened, and send them a story. Somebody here says they send birthday cards. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, you can send birthday cards. I do conversation hearts.
Yeah.
I take sandpaper and I sand off the imprinted messages and I write my own and I present them and they're like, hey, these are personal.
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird, but I've done, I live in an area where there's a lot of produce. If I just want to do, I can go buy a big bin of produce and I just take it to them saying, I'm thinking of you. This stuff is great. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I go. I don't ask for anything. It's just, and I really did think of them because they mentioned once that they liked something. So you can create those experiences because you don't want that weariness and they don't either.
Yeah.
So that you're even asking is a great thing.
Yeah. Great questions. Hey, just a couple other housekeeping things as we wrap up. We're almost at 11 o'clock. Again, we have time for one or two more questions, but I do want to let you know that in November, on Tuesday, November 14th, will be our next webinar. We're going to be talking about digital marketing. And I think this is going to be a really fun opportunity to talk about some of the opportunities out there, such as text-to-give programs.
Are you going to interview a robot?
No, we're actually going to have a digital marketing expert to come in. And I was actually at an event the other night where at the event, people had the opportunity to donate at the event, and they were showing the donation board go up during that event. So text to give and different kind of programs like that, the sort of nuts and bolts of digital marketing. So we're going to have a fun guest for that. So that's going to be on November 14th, and you will get an email for that, as well as you'll get a follow-up email from this webinar with Jill. You'll have copies of the slides and a recording. So if there's not any other questions, look if they're not. Again, here's our emails. Feel free to email us after the webinar. And again, here at Aplos, we have tons of resources for you. I just want to emphasize, you do not have to be an Aplos customer or use our software to access our fundraising and leadership tools. Our job is to help you hopefully be more successful in your fundraising. So Jill, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and thank you out there for spending time with us for an hour each month, or some of you more often than that. So with that, we want to wish you happy fundraising. Oh, one other thing, we also have
happy career.
We have a new thing in that if you do like Facebook, we have a new group, and it's called #nonprofiting. Or nonprofiting, and it's a Facebook group that we started. It's just a discussion board for nonprofit leaders and churches to jump on and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, or I need a resource for that. It's just a discussion board. So if you're interested in that, look that up and join our group. So with that, we want to wish everybody a great day, happy fall, and happy fundraising out there. And we'll talk to you all again. Thanks.